Good afternoon, my name is Michael Hall. I'm going to be giving you a presentation on the life and times of the white-tailed deer in the state of Georgia. The white-tailed deer is a magnificent, majestic animal that with careful management and conservation can be a benefit to society. If without that careful management, it can become an incredible nuisance. It is a natural, economic, and recreational resource that requires management, and they are an animal to live in a varied landscape from open fields to woods to suburban backyards. In the early 1950s and 1960s, the white-tailed deer in the state of Georgia were almost non-existent. After careful management, that population currently exceeds $1.2 million, or 1.2 million animals. Annual revenue from hunting land leases, recreational passes, WMA permits, hunting licenses is $800 million a year. The white-tailed deer population has exploded in the state of Georgia. Those red counties are the counties with the highest deer population. The green ones are the ones with the lowest population. This is a good thing and a bad thing. These counties with the highest population see a lot more agricultural damage from these animals. They see it in their backyards, in suburbia. They also see it on the farmland. After careful management, these populations can be brought down to a more manageable size. This is some of the agricultural damage done by white-tailed deer. Here you can see the top of ears of corns being chewed off, sunflower seeds being chewed off. This plant has been so damaged you can't even tell what it is, and here's some more damage to crop. One of the biggest crops in the state of Georgia is what's called feeder corn. It is corn that is raised to feed domestic cattle. Recent scientific studies have led to much insight in the biology and behavior of the white-tailed deer. White-tailed deer in the state of Georgia average between 70 to 250 pounds. This is a Georgia white-tailed deer buck, or male member of the species. Obviously identifiable by the large antlers on his head. He is probably pushing closer to 200 pounds. White-tailed bucks come into breeding season once a year along with the does, and that time of period is called the rut. This is your doe. This is a very large Georgia doe. She is probably pushing upwards of 175 to 200 pounds. This is not typical for Georgia. Your typical Georgia doe runs between 70 to 100 pounds. And here you see a doe with her fairly young fawn. This fawn is probably approximately 3 to 4 weeks old based on the size and the number of spots on its back. Breeding season or the rut for these animals extend from October to January, with a peak in November. They have a 200-day gestation period. That is the period from conception to the time of birth. Very similar to that of most ruminant animals of their type, goats, horses, etc. Newborns are called fawns, and they range from sizes from 4 to 8 pounds. Some of the actions you will see during the rut are as follows. You've got a buck chasing a doe. You've got two bucks sparring, fighting. They're either fighting for territory or for a doe. You'll have bucks licking branches. They're doing one of two things here. They're even leaving their scent, or they are gathering the scent of a doe. And in the far bottom corner, you'll see what most would classify as a power scrape. He has done two things. He has rubbed the bark off the tree, leaving the tarsal scent from his antlers, and he has scraped the ground with his paws, leaving the tarsal scent from his hands, or from his paws. Here are your peak breeding times in the state of Georgia. Again, they're all pretty much in November. You have one that is early October, or mid-October, but for the most part, the breeding period in Georgia is November. Their home range for these animals can cover anywhere from 150 acres to 1,200 acres, based on the size of the herd, based on the size of the food that is available, and based on water sources, as well as confining things such as suburban neighborhoods, that kind of stuff. If they have nothing but farmland, their land will will increase. Does typically have smaller ranges than bucks. They won't travel as far. They don't need to, because why? The men will come to them. Hunters typically concern themselves mostly with bucks. This is the wrong answer, and here's why. Does, believe it or not, decide what is being born versus what is not. It's very similar to our reproductive system. So it is the does, the more does you harvest, the more you adjust what is being born in the deer population. This is also food supply dependent. Does typically have 1 to 2 offspring. Very rarely will you see triplets, but twins are fairly common. The deer herd itself, the size of that herd is a complex result of interaction between food, the size of the population, births and deaths, movements, weather, and believe it or not, past history. Alright, so with all of this being said, one of the big issues that helps with deer management population is hunting. Something we have talked about before. Quota hunts, longer seasons, specialty hunts, these are all things that can help manage that deer population so they don't experience any die-offs. Deer are the only animal that will browse plants 4 to 5 feet off the ground. Typically they eat 5 pounds of dry weight a day. They have certain preferences. We've all heard of the standards, your acorns, grapes, that kind of stuff. But some of the ones that I found that were rather interesting are the ones I've got up here on the screen. Greenbrier, Japanese honeysuckle, black gum, and persimmon. Now, down here we have a lot of greenbrier and Japanese honeysuckle. Persimmon is more of a, I believe, a North Georgia thing. Black gum, as much as I've been in the woods, I have not seen anywhere near down here. Alright, so habitats include woods, open landscape, farmland, even suburbia. There have been lots of reports recently about people with flower gardens in their backyards getting destroyed because of white-tailed deer. In conclusion, white-tailed deer is a magnificent resource that needs to be diligently and carefully managed. It is something that with that management can be an asset to society in both the progenation of plant life as well as keeping our forests fairly clean because of the level at which they eat. Also something that can be enjoyed by all, whether you are a hunter or not. Thank you for your attendance. I appreciate it very much. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.